hello there, yes. Another hot day. Astounding. Who'd have thought it? Anyway, today we come to our last little bit of our rules of Grifterhood, or Grifterdom, or Grifting. Probably that one. Yes, anyway, and this is the last one, number 5, which is gender ideology. And the reason I've coined it that is because, I do want to talk about the notion of gender ideology, but also the way that grifters will simply report and repeat over and over again known lies on the basis that you're too stupid to realise that the lies were debunked a long time ago. And it's worthwhile just sort of diving into just the whole concept of gender ideology, because this is where I want to sort of fixate this thing. Now, gender ideology is something you'll hear all over, all these proponents of gender ideology. It's gender ideology in schools and gender ideology with our children. It's all gender ideology. And it's worthwhile just thinking about the word, because it's often very badly misused. Strangely. So let's define it. First up on Google, ideology from Oxford Languages, a system of ideas and ideals, especially one which forms the basis of economic or political theory and policy. Yes, as simple as that, okay? System of ideas and ideals. So most things in the political sphere, as a set of collection of ideas, or indeed religious, come onto that, could be described as an ideology. You get Muslim ideology and you get Christian ideology and you get Jewish ideology, I suppose. On that basis, you can actually utilise those words because they are a coherent worldview in very much the same way as you get coherent political worldviews. However, the debate, as ever, about ideology in the British media is only ever applied to a certain groups of ideas, not others. And just generally speaking, those things which are anti-capitalist, if I can put that broad umbrella to them, are ideological. Yes, the left is ideological. It's the communist ideology, the socialist ideology, or indeed the gender ideology. Whatever that is, come on to that. Yes, whereas things that aren't anti-capitalist, like, capitalism, are just simply common sense and just the way things are and the natural order. Now, let's sort of dive into that gender ideology one. So this caught my eye. I was pleased to catch this, actually. It was a piece from the Heritage Foundation, respected American think tank, if you like, but one of those kind of cornerstones American think tanks that often ends up with lots of money going into loads of British people that you'll see invited as experts on GB News or Talk TV, or indeed having chats to Telegraph journalists. Anyway, this is from Jay Richards, the director of the DeVos Centre for Life, Religion and the Family. You can tell instantly what that's about, and they're a group funded millions and millions and millions of pounds each year, tens of millions of dollars, to back a very evangelical American Christian ideology. There we go, I've managed to do that. Is it an ideology? Yes, because they are one of those fundamental groups that are tied into the American Republican Party. So yes, they are. Anyway, Jay was talking about what exactly is gender ideology. And you look at this yourself because it's quite an intriguing piece. Anyway, it's a whole of an 8-minute read, I think. But for those of you that are too pushed, he's thankfully given us some key takeaways, which seem perfectly reasonable until you actually apply some brain cells, as ever, to it. So let's just look at what exactly gender ideology is. So, number 1, gender ideology is the source of the belief that children can be born in the wrong body. It's the source of the belief. You see, the ideology has come first, right? Okay, and from that nugget, which is a bad thing, comes this gender ideology badness. Okay, that's just simply the way it works. Now, you and I might have thought that it was a whole bunch of people that work with young people and others for, something like about the last 120 years. But you'd be wrong about that. You'd be wrong. Number 2, let's move on to number 2. One can't really define gender ideology without invoking some of the terms it has already inserted into our language. Language, terms that also cry out for definition. Yes, indeed, and in many ways I'm not entirely sure what that means, but you can't really define gender ideology without invoking some of the terms it's already inserted in our language. Yes, you see, it's a pernicious ideology. It's been inserted. They weren't there before. No. And this is the corker of it. Let's look at number 3. The plain truth. Gender ideology does not accommodate the reality of sex, the reproductive strategy of mammals, including human beings. Yes, and there you have it. You've got that sex is for procreation in humans, which sounds absolutely fine, and this is often what people that are basically homophobic and transphobic will come out and tell you, particularly homophobes. You know, it's totally wrong because sex is just for children. Well, okay then, but let's just unpack that very slightly. So we have a situation where most people in the UK have quite a lot of sexual activity. If you include penetrative intercourse and a wide variety of sexual contact involving that and lots of other things in their lives, and then you include things like masturbation in their lives, you can see that the number of children that is likely to come out of all of that massive activity is going to be a very, very tiny number. I personally have been, I think, reasonably sexually active in my life. I have exactly 1 child. So sex in humans isn't simply biologically linked. That viewpoint is an ideological one, and it's a evangelical Christian one, which is where we get back to the whole ideology and how pernicious it is, because most of the grifters are employed to push this very particular American libertarian evangelical line. And they will tell you that, for example, I'm going to highlight trans issues in schools here, that this is a pernicious, unnatural thing that is being done to others by ideologues. Not that, there's a lot of scientific evidence, and the majority of people that work with trans people, such as myself, earnestly believe that these people earnestly believe that's what they are, and we have, once again, 100+ years of this stuff at an absolute minimum. We know that certain people don't feel that they were born in the correct body. It's not really just an opinion, yeah? But, of course, this then has to become the disputed territory. And like most people on the right, the grifters will lie about it. They will tell you, earnestly, that children are identifying as cats. A story that has been very widely debunked, but it will continue to do the rounds. Yes, they will tell you quite earnestly that there was that case in the Isle of Man of the drag queen who insisted, standing in a class of children, that there were 14 million genders or some number. Yes, very quietly this week there's been a report in the Isle of Man, link below, you can see it here. Yes, and its recommendations are that parents should be better informed about sex education in schools. That's it. No drag queen. No hundreds of different genders. A lie. And yet it is a lie that will go on being repeated over and over again. It's an ideological stance that these people have, and they cannot let go of it because they are after wider things. They are after reproductive rights, because that's where the push from the states goes. They want to get rid of abortion. They want to get rid of sex education. They want to control people's sexualities because it's dangerous when you lot are let off the leash. You need to make sure that you're linking your sexual activity to having children. Yes, and you can even see this wider stuff in terms of the guff that is out there about schools in terms of CRT, critical race theory, anything that they don't like involving race, aspects of race, history, etc. in schools, amazingly becomes CRT, a pernicious ideology that's being pushed. Well, except of course they're the ones with all the money doing all the pushing. Very, very, very snide individuals, and also nasty human beings who are quite happy to knowingly lie to you when things are patently ridiculous and debunked. and they will just spew the same thing because that's what they get paid for. What do you think? Do you think that somebody that does that for a living is ideological? Because I certainly do. Whereas, of course, they will claim that of me. I do have an ideology, of course I do. Most people do. But it doesn't involve lying, taking money to lie to people to try to get my own way on behalf of a very, very, very dodgy group of Americans. Anyway, that was a bit miserable and sad, wasn't it, for the weekend? Do have a lovely day. We'll bring all this stuff together. Sorry, it was a bit rambling today, but I kind of needed to go through that. Anyway, yes, do have a lovely one. And, yeah, sunshine. Go and enjoy it. Go on. I know my cat will.